Namaste. I, Jv'n, Neha Sharma, JVWU Women's University, Department of Science and Technology, Faculty of Education and Methodology. So today's topic is the OSI model. It is a very important topic of computer networks because the actual flow of data, how the data flow, or to say how the data is transferred in the network. So basically, OSI model is a logical representation of how the network system are supposed to send data or to communicate with each other in uh, via network. Okay, so OSI, what is the full form of OSI? The OSI stands for Open Systems Interconnection, right? And OSI model is a tool to actually model or trace the actual flow of data, how data transfer in the networks. So what it is composed of? So the OSI model breaks down this data transfer communication procedure into different components called layers. And why layers? Because those components follow a proper order of execution. Like for example, physical layer in which the physical wiring and connection take place. Data link layer in which switching takes place. Right. So in total there are 7 layers which together make up the OSI model. Okay, so basically, OSI model, the purpose of OSI model is to guide developers so that the digital communication products and software products they create will interpret, okay, and to facilitate clear comparison among communication tools. So most vendors involved in telecommunication make an attempt to describe their products and services in related, or to say in related or with relation to the OSI model. So, moreover, it is critically very important to have a clear idea about the OSI model. In case of some network, the problem is using the OSI layer, they can narrow down and uh, figure out in which part the problem is. So, having an OSI layered approach for troubleshooting network problem is very useful. So, advantages of OSI model. Basically, OSI model is a common platform for the software developers and the hardware manufacturers to encourage and creation of networking products that can communicate with each other over the network. It helps network administrators by dividing large data exchange process in smaller segments, right? Because in OSI model there are different players and they have their different associate or to say respective works, and these layers cannot interfere with each other work, right? They are separately work. So due to independence of layers, it prevents changes in one layer affecting the other layers, right? Because they are independently working in this OSI model. Okay, so a standardization of network components allow multiple vendor development structure very well the function particular to each layer. It reduces complexity and accelerate the evolution because independently layers are working and each layer has their respective works, right? And assigned tasks like let's say physical layer. So physical layer is having the task of physically data connectivity over the network, right? So physically network connectivity means here by any type of cable or to say the actual connection between the devices, right? And so different players have different works and assigned tasks. So it reduces the complexity and accelerates the evolution. And it's simple in learning, right? Say 7 layer of OSI model. So basically, it is the closest to the end user at the top, going all the way down to the physical layer. So actual data transfer happen with the use of transmission medium. Transmission mediums are we studied in the last lecture in which we studied the fiber optics, guided and unguided media, right? And there are different cables, right? So thus the actual data transfer happen with the use of the transfer medium, and here is the 7 layer of OSI. So in the end, there is a user, which are us, right? And as we all can see the screen in front of us, right? So the screen is what? So the screen is the application layer. through which we request our data and the system give it the uh, desired or requested data to us, right? So how all this process works? So first we transmit the data, then it goes on to application layer, then presentation, then session, then transport, then network, then data link, then physical layer, then physical link, right? Physical link, here's the server which is working, right? So it gives the desired output to again physical layer, then data link, then network, then transport, then session, then presentation, then application, and then we receive the data. Like for example, if I requested Google the seven layer of OSI. So first, my request transmit to application, then there's the whole way, then to the server, then again go back to the all these layers, through all these layers, and get back to me, right? So how this is work? So seventh layer, which is application layer, is the last layer. Okay, so here we can see the application layer in front of us, on which we run different type of applications like browser, media, and many other kind of applications. So this is the topmost layer in the 7 OSI layer, and this is the layer that the end user is actually interacting with. This layer allow access to network resources. Okay, तो किसे एक्सेस देता है ये? नेटवर्क रिसोर्सेज को। एंड यूजर को अगर कुछ भी रिक्वेस्ट करना है तो उसके लिए उसे क्या चाहिए? एप्लीकेशन चाहिए। चाहे वो मोबाइल हो, मोबाइल पे हम एप्स यूज करते हैं और सिस्टम पे हम एप्लीकेशन यूज करते हैं, राइट? तो एंड यूजर को इंटरेक्ट करने के लिए क्या चाहिए? प्लेटफॉर्म, जो कौन प्रोवाइड कराता है? एप्लीकेशन। ओके, so this layer allow access to network resources, of course. Without network, we can't request, right? Uh, either it like I take an example of Google. So for to interact with Google, I have to connect with internet, right? So that it make my request fulfill. Otherwise, it can't, right? So application layer is actually interacting. Basically, it is an interaction layer between the end user and the system and allow access to network resources. Okay, sixth is presentation layer. So this is the layer in which the operating system operates with the data. So main function of this layer include translation, encryption, and compression of data. So user interact with application layer. Now this data sent down to the presentation layer, right? तो प्रेजेंटेशन लेयर क्या करेगी कि अगर मेरा डेटा जो है, जो मैंने रिक्वेस्ट किया है, वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा है और अगर उसको कुछ भी उस पर ऑपरेशन परफॉर्म करना है, लाइक उसको ट्रांसलेट करना है मशीन लैंग्वेज में, उसको इनक्रिप्ट करना है, या फिर अगर मेरा डेटा बहुत ज़्यादा है उसको कंप्रेस करना है, तो वो सब काम कौन करेगा? बेसिकली प्रेजेंटेशन लेयर करेगी। Okay, and then go it goes down to the session layer, right? Then session layer is has the job to maintain proper communication by establishing, managing, and terminating the sessions between the two computers. So basically session layer is all about session management, right? So for example, whenever we visit any website, our computer has to create the session with the web server of that website, right? In session management, there are cookies management and the history and many other things. What we can say here is many different things like cookies, history, session creation for each and every web server of that website, and then store it. So at if we visit again, then it goes to the history and cookies, and we get it again. So all this are the tasks basically in categorized under session management, and session layer has the job to maintain the session management and provide communication by managing and terminating sessions between the two computers. Okay. Next one is transport layer. So transport layer has a very important job. It decides how much information should be sent at a time. So when you communicating with the website, this layer will decide how much data you can transfer and receive at the given point of time. So this is the transport layer work. Like In transport layer there are server side and the receiver side. Okay, so there are different activities are performed at server side and the receiver side at transport layer, like segmentation and reassembly of data, है ना? And service point addressing and many other things, right? We can study it later in detail. And the next one is network layer, and the major task of transport layer is uh, recovery. Okay, error recovery, message delivery, so reliability. Basically, transport layer provide the reliability of the data transfer or to say message delivering and error recovery. If there is any error, any kind of error, so error recovery is also fulfilled by the transport layer. So basically, it guaranteed that whatever you request make or whatever you data send is actually received by the receiver. Okay, and there are no flaws. Okay, then network layer. Network layer is a very important job. Basically, it moves packets from source to destination and provide the internet networking. This is the layer that the routes operate on. Basically, routers operate at the network level, and we can say the IP address is at the network level. Basically, okay. So all things are majorly established with the network layer here, because network layer is the one who provide actual connection, and network layer is the one who actually on which the routers operating, and actually the data travel from source to destination by the network layer, right? So what are the tasks of network layer? So there are different tasks like transmission of data from one host to another host. It also take care of packet routing. What is packet routing? So select the shortest path to transmit packet from the number of routers available. This is called the packet routing. And network layer at the header of the IP. Okay, in IP address. So routing is which routing. There are different routing algorithms. So which routing is suitable for source to destination? Which is the optimized path from source to destination to send the data? All these things are in the routing happens. And second is logical addressing, which is the IP address. Identify each device on internet work uniquely. So sender and receiver have their unique IP addresses, and in the header by network layer. So basically, it provides the logical addressing, right? And okay, then it provides and to so then whole this data is uniquely identified by the IP address, and second is the routing, packet routing. So these are the major tasks of the network layer. And then here we comes to data link layer. Again, it is very important layer. Basically, it is responsible for organizing the bits into frames and ensuring hope to hope delivery. What do you mean by here the hope to hope? What is the meaning of hope to hope? So, during data transfer, there are different stops. Like, for example, we can say if any bus, any bus is traveling, like it has its source to destination, final source to final destination, but there are different hopes coming up at the route. Okay, like if you wanna go to Jaipur to Delhi. Okay, so there are different stops which are created between Jaipur to Delhi to take passengers from there, right? So these small stops are what? These are hopes. So during data transfer, there is also a different hope situated between the final source to final destination during the data delivery, and this is the layer on which the switches operate. Since router operate at the network level, we can see the MAC address besides the data link layer, and all the computer in a specific network get plugged into switch so they can communicate with each other. Okay, so basically data link layer target what? MAC address reside in the data link layer, right? So Data link layer provide hope-to-hope delivery from source to receiver, and responsibilities make sure that data transfer is error-free from one node to another node or one host to another node. Okay, in between the source and the destination. So host using what? These hosts are using MAC addresses. That's why here MAC addresses introduced, right? So in data link layer there are two types of basically address. One is MAC, media access control, and second is LLC, logical link control. Okay, so uh, the packet it gets from the network layer, then when it comes to data link layer, it comes in the form of frames, right? And these frames are depend on the physical layer, right? So the frame size of this NIC card is there in that MAC address, okay? And had also head of what? Head of MAC address, so that it is identified by the receiver that the packet it received is coming from the correct source, right? Okay. So what are the dedicated tasks of data link layer here is framing. First is framing. So provide way to sender to transmit a set of bits that are meaningful to receiver, right? This also includes a special bit pattern in the beginning and at the end of frame, which is at the beginning of frame is called head and at the end of frame is called tail. So this is all about the framing, because in this packets are in the form of frames, right? Data packets are in form of frames in data link layer. So this framing contain the head and the tail, which are the special bit that transmit, or this is a set of bit that are transmit to the receiver which have some meaningful data. Okay, so second one is physical addressing. Physical addressing after creating frames, data link layer add physical address, which is what? MAC address, right? MAC address of sender or receiver in header of the frame. MAC address is basically 48-bit address, which is fixed. Okay, fixed and work in the local network. Okay, and third task of data link here is error control. Error control, because a data link layer is detect and transmit damage of lost frames. There are different mechanism for error control in data link layer, which we have studied later in unit 2, right? So basically all these are like CRC method, checksum method, parity method. So all these mechanisms are used to uh, find error in data, okay, and control the error. So next one is flow control. Flow control coordinated the amount of data sent between before receiving acknowledge, right? So this is again flow control of data link layer also have different mechanism like sliding window protocol, go back and protocol, selection repeat protocol, right? So all these are different protocols which we are studied later. And fifth is access control. Access control is basically single communication channel shared by multiple devices. So data link layer help to determine the which device has control over channel at a given time. There are different communication channels working like CSMA, Ethernet, Aloha, Pure Aloha. There are different channels. Okay, and so like for example, and switches also like bridge, right? So access control is also the major activity, major task of data link layer. And then last one is physical layer. So physical layer is actually to make connection between the devices, as the name suggests. Okay, it actually real transmission of the data bit take place through a medium, and the layer is the name suggests physical stuff that connect the computer to together. So like here we get data. Now data is converted. Containing basically data is some info, right? So this info is converted into bits. like 0 and 1. This data is converted into bits in physical layer and responsible for actual physical connection. Okay, so at physical layer, when finally data is actually come, so this physical layer converted this data, which is any kind of information, convert it into the bits, right? Either 0 or 1 in the form of bits. Then again, uh, data go back to data link layer, right? Because now actually this flow is done, right? Now receiving flow is starting. Okay, so okay, so here the task of physical layer is what? Bit synchronization, provide a clock. Okay, clock control both sender and receiver side, है ना? And it basically control the bit synchronization. Okay, so bit synchronization means bits bits per transmission data. Okay, and bit rate control is also defined at transmit data number of bit per second. Okay, then next is physical topologies. Physical topologies are what? The way the nodes are arranged with each other over the network, like burst topologies, star topologies, mesh topologies, which we already studied in the classification of computer network lecture. Okay, so these are different topologies. So decide which topology is actually here work in this kind of particular request. Okay, then the transmission nodes. So define the way in which data flow between two connected networks, like single, half duplex, full duplex, right? For example, hub repeaters and modem cables. So what kind of cable here is used, what kind of router here is used, modem is used, right? So it all depends on the particular request, right? So these all are the tasks of the physical layer. So basically in OSI model, application, presentation and session layer are the software layers, and transport network. Basically, transport layer is heart of OSI because it provides ensurety of data transmission with reliability and error-free data transfer. So, transport layer is heart of OSI model, and network, data link layer, and physical layer are the hardware layers there, right? So now data is coming to physical layer and convert physical layer converted this data info into the bits. Now this data go again to the data link layer, right? In data link layer, the bits it's received from the physical layer. It data link layer transfer this bits in the form of frames and add the MAC address and the head and tail, right? And the head and tail bit, so that receiver recognize that the data the receiver received is getting from the correct source. Okay, then this data goes to the network layer. The data is in format of what? In network layer. So basically in network layer, packet routing is there. So network layer provide IP header, right, which uniquely identify the source and the receiver. So this IP address header is uh, add to the that frame. Okay, that MAC address frame. So here then it goes to the transport layer. So transport layer provide end-to-end delivery for computer network, right? And also provide acknowledgement of successful data transmission and retransmit the data if any error is found. So in transport layer, data is in the format of segments basically. Segments are nothing but the data is in the form of segment in which you have all the information you basically want to transmit the data, like perform segmentation. So in segmentation and reassembly, transport layer accept the message. Okay, then segment it, break the message into smaller parts. So all these parts are known as segments, right? Or data or message, you can say any, okay, any term. and each segment produced has header with it, right? To transport layer a destination, we assemble it again, the segment reassemble it again and get the final data. Okay, so this is what about the segmentation and reassembly of the transport layer. Okay, then service point addressing. Transport layer header include the type of address called service point address or this is port address, right? And ports are basically already fixed. Like for HTTPS, port is 80, port number is 80. So there are different port addresses provided in transport layer. So the services of transport layer are connection oriented and connectionless, which we are studied in detail in the next lecture. So in connection oriented, connection established, and in connection less, basically also that kind of the services TL provided to send the data to receiver. Okay, then it goes to the session layer, right? The session layer again doing the session management task and allow the process to establish in the connection and the maintenance of session authentication and security works here in session layer. It also works with synchronization layer, allow process to add some checkpoints which are considered as a synchronization points to identify the errors, right? So if any error found, then it go back to the last checkpoint where the data is tracked. Okay, so these checkpoints are work in finding the error in the data you send. So if any data loss is there or if any data loss is happen, then it go back to the last checkpoint and recover the data from there. Okay, so this is the task of session layer and then the dialog controller. Dialog controller is allow system to start communication with each other in half duplex or full duplex mode. Okay, and then again it data goes to the application layer. From there we finally receive the data. Okay, here we finally receive the data. Okay, I missed the presentation layer. So in the presentation layer, data from the basically session layer come up to again presentation layer and presentation layer was again translated, right? Again encrypted, decrypted, and then data goes to the application layer or to say desktop layer and implemented by the network applications. Basically, any kind of network application, mail services, directory services, right? Network virtual termination, browser, Skype, Messenger, right? So application window, application services to access network and for displaying, receiving info to the end user, right? So here we get our data. So this is how the whole 7 layers of OSI is working and the OSI model working. So first it transmits the data, then it finally goes to physical layer, then physical layer do its task, then again it goes to the data link layer, then to network layer, then to transport, then session, then presentation, then application, and then we get a final output. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. Thank you so much.